In the shadows where the silence speaks, I walk the line where the lost souls seek. With whispers of hope and a guiding light, I'll search the dark, bring the truth to light. I'm a seeker of the unseen, bridging worlds where the heart has been. With every heartbeat, every tear, I'll find the way, I'll draw you near. Through the echoes of the past I tread, unlocking stories of the words unsaid. With every vision I'll stand my ground. In the name of love, the lost will be found. I'm a seeker of the unseen, bridging worlds where the heart has been. With every heartbeat, every tear, I'll find the way, I'll draw you near. Hope is fading, I won't let go. I'll be your compass, your guiding glow. Together we'll break through the darkest night. For every lost soul, I'll bring back the light. I'm a seeker of the unseen, bridging worlds where the heart has been. With every heartbeat, every tear, I'll find a way, I'll draw you near. I'm a seeker of the unseen, I'm bridging worlds where the heart has been, where the heart. With every heartbeat, every tear, I'll find the way, I'll draw you near. Draw you near. Through the echoes of the past I tread, unlocking stories of the words unsaid. With every vision I'll stand my ground. In the name of love, the lost will be found. Through the echoes of the past I tread, unlocking stories of the words unsaid. With every vision I'll stand my ground. In the name of love, the lost will be found. Through the echoes of the past I tread, unlocking stories of the words unsaid. With every vision I'll stand my ground. In the name of love, the lost will be found. When hope is fading, I won't let go. I'll be your compass, your guiding glow. Together we'll break through the darkest night. For every lost soul, I'll bring back the light. When hope is fading, I won't let go. I'll be your compass, your guiding glow. Together we'll break through the darkest night. For every lost soul, I'll bring back the light.
Make that really quick and easy for you guys. Hope that you like that. Okay, so today I'm going to be doing a little bit of a different video. Sorry, I'm a little bit drained from everything I've been doing behind the scenes. That's why I have not been here. Between that and Ginger's passing, I've been depleted. So, I appreciate your patience and know that I'm working behind the scenes on certain things. I'm sending in tips and whatnot for different cases. I just have to get the videos up. And also I am working on the Patreon stuff, such as the Zodiac Killer and Black Delilah. I have those things that I need to put together. There's a lot of information. I did about 8 hours of work on the Zodiac, so that's why it hadn't been put out yet. And then everything happened with Ginger and all these other cases. And so I'm really, really a little stressed out about it, but I will get it for you guys. Thank you for your patience and your time. I think it's important to educate people on how this works, because I think that there's a lot of misconceptions and misunderstandings as to how I work and how this works. This is how it works for me. And so I'm going to go ahead and talk about that today in the best way that I know how, so I don't forget anything. I have something laid out here that I'm going to be reading to you. So if you would like to learn more about how I work, how this works, how psychic gifts works, how location works, how the channeling works, this is the video for you. And I think it's important if you're going to be on this channel watching. So I'm going to go ahead and get going. So again, I want to take a moment to explain how my readings work, because there's a lot of misunderstanding out there. What I do isn't a game. It isn't just storytelling, and it's not based on guesses. It's sacred, it's soul work, and it's in every case, every spirit, every impression I treat with the reverence it deserves. Some people notice that I speak fast, and I get it. So it can be a lot to take in, especially when you're trying to follow something deep or detailed. But that speed, it's not anxiety, it's not chaos. It's how I process information, because I'm built to receive and translate fast. I'm getting chills on my arm. I have Mercury in Aquarius and I live with ADHD, but not in the way that most people think. For me, it's not a disorder, it's a frequency. Aquarius governs higher thought, innovation, cosmic intelligence. Mercury rules how we think, speak, and receive. When you blend those together, you get someone who's wired to move fast, think fast, and channel fast. That's how spirit speaks to me, in waves and rushes, in pieces that must be caught midstream. So, yes, I speak fast. I even read fast sometimes, even though I try to slow down, especially when I know someone's trying to follow with care. But I can't always stop the flow because once it starts, it moves. This isn't about being scattered, it's about vibrating in a different rhythm. And that rhythm is part of what makes me a messenger. So if I ever move too fast for you, no, it's not meant to overwhelm. It's just me doing my best to keep up with spirit. And you may slow down using YouTube's settings there. When I connect, I don't sit here trying to figure it out. I give what I get. Sometimes I receive flashes, phrases, or scenes that feel like quick downloads. Other times it's like watching a full movie. I see the location, I feel the atmosphere, I hear the words. I might witness it as an observer, or I might become the victim or the perpetrator in that moment. That can include physical sensations, emotions, or even directional markers. There are times that I feel like I'm standing in a place that I've never been, but I know the terrain. That's remote viewing. Spirit walks me through locations. They show me what I need to describe to help bring clarity or justice. And when it's vivid and it's precise, that's a gift. But most of the time, it's layered, symbolic, fragmented. Spirit doesn't always speak in GPS coordinates, they speak in vibration, memory, and energy. I know some people struggle with the idea that I've worked with the spirit of Ted Bundy. They think he was evil in life. Why would spirit let him help out now? But here's what they don't understand. We're not just one life. We're not just one the roles that we played in our worst lifetime. Our souls evolve. We carry karma, yes, but we also carry purpose if we choose to do the work. Ted chose. He stayed behind, not trapped, but in service. He helped me read the energy of the Idaho 4 killer. He helped me recognize the pattern long before anyone else. He showed me the echoes, the darkness, the archetype. And when Brian Kohlberger was arrested, I heard him clearly. I told you so. And then I saw him. He turned, he looked back at me, and he smiled, and he walked into the light. That was the moment of release, because he did what he was meant to do, because he fulfilled the contract we made long before I ever knew it existed. This was soul aligned work. It plays out in my astrology, it plays out in the patterns I see, and it's why I've been able to describe killers with eerie accuracy. It's why sometimes I see the lies buried in plain sight, and I'm getting chills. And that's why he's still allowed to help me now, because the contract it was sealed before this lifetime even began. He chose to face the darkness he once embodied, and Spirit honored that by letting him be a part of the work that brings justice now. Because none of us are just what we were. We are what we chose to become in life and beyond. Another part of how I work is through energy signatures. Certain people, especially perpetrators, carry a specific energetic imprint. It's not just their action, it's their vibe, their psychic frequency, their soul pattern. I've picked up on the same signature across different cases, even across different decades. Sometimes it feels like I've met this person before, because I have, in another case, in another town, through another victim. And when I feel that, I know we're dealing with a repeat archetype. I've recognized echoes of Ted Bundy, Rodney Akala, and the Zodiac in modern cases, not because I'm saying it's them, but because the pattern is repeating. Their charm, their control, their method, and their motive. Spirit uses these signatures to warn us, to prepare us, and to help connect the dots when others can't. And just like I see victim imprints or locations, I see perpetrator patterns too. That's why my work isn't just about a single case, it's about tracking the dark. And when you can name a pattern, you can stop it from repeating. One of the most important things I've come to understand about my gift, and one of the hardest for others to grasp, is this. I don't just receive information about one case at a time. I see patterns across timelines, archetypes, and soul contracts. Spirit often shows me what's called a karmic echo, a case, event, or energetic signature that is repeating or about to repeat. Sometimes I'm given a pattern before the event even happens. That's what people mean when they talk about precognition. But in my case, it's not just about one moment, it's about a recognized soul level repetition. Let me explain how how that works with two specific cases, Rachel Morin and Laken Riley. When I received information on Rachel Morin's case, I started getting a vivid profile. A woman jogging, ambushed by a man named Jose, possibly undocumented. It felt symbolic, like an archetype wound playing out. But the details didn't fully match Rachel's perpetrator, and it was actually really confusing. Then months later, Laken Riley was murdered in exactly the way I described. Jogger ambush named Jose, similar environment. She had a dark ponytail and the same soul pattern. Spirit didn't make a mistake. They gave me the pattern early during Rachel's reading, so I would recognize it again when it appeared. That's how Spirit trains me, through references, emotional echoes, and repeated soul signatures. That's why I sometimes reference Criminal Minds, psychic detectives, or other real life cases in my readings, because Spirit knows I understand story structure. They show me what I already recognize, so I can spot it faster when it reappears. So, no, I'm not off topic when I speak in layers. I'm seeing the karmic fingerprint that ties cases together, and sometimes that includes the future. When people say I didn't get anything on someone like Brian Kohlberger, that's simply not true, and most of you know that if you've watched and paid attention. I said his name, I described his behavior, but more than that, I described the soul of his actions. I named the pattern, the dark archetype behind him, and that's why I keep getting shown similar cases. Because my work is more about than naming one man. It's about recognizing the cycle before it repeats. And there's something that might surprise some people, but it's important to understand. When I first started receiving information about the pattern that would later play out in Laken Riley's case, it came during a session with Ted Bundy as a shadow guide. Now, before anyone jumps to conclusions, no, I'm not glorifying him. Spirit uses what's available, even in the darkest of archetypes, to help those of us on the light path recognize patterns so that we can interpret them. Ted came through as a mirror to show me what this predator type feels like, how they choose victims, and how the energy builds before they act. Showed me the Lincoln pattern ahead of time, not because it had happened yet, but because Spirit was training me to recognize a soul archetype I need to identify in the future work. That's part of how my precognition works, not just time traveling visions, but archetypal instruction from beyond. Something I've learned over time, and it honestly still blows my mind, is that Spirit doesn't always show me information that belongs to the case that I think I'm reading. Sometimes they show me future cases, and I only realize it later. Let me give you an example. When I was working on Kenneth Howard's case, I was being shown a shed. But that wasn't for Kenneth. That was for Riker Webb, who hadn't even gone missing yet. Riker was later found in a shed, and I'd already received the image during Kenneth's readings. Spirit works in overlaps, not straight lines, and I believe I received these early because I specialize in certain soul paths: children who wander, children who drown, accidental disappearances in nature, hidden bodies in water, or wooded terrain. Sometimes Spirit gives me information about a case before it even happens, just before I read on it, but literally before the person involved is even missing or even born. In one example, during chills, a reading for the case of Stephanie Parze, I received two very strange impressions that didn't make full sense at the time: the name Quentin and a very strong landfill imprint. Now, Stephanie's case didn't involve a child or landfill, chills again. But years later, when Quentin Simon went missing and his body was eventually confirmed to have been disposed of in a landfill by his own mother, it clicked. Spirit had shown me Quentin in landfill before he was even born. Why? I still don't fully know. I believe there's a soul contract there. But I believe it's because my gift is wired to pick up soul imprints, especially trauma coded ones, before they manifest physically. The case didn't match Stephanie's exactly, but the pattern, the energy of hidden harm, maternal betrayal, and emotional burial was resonant. Interconnects are not excuses. They're how Spirit delivers soul coded information across timelines, archetypes, and karmic mirrors. When you don't understand that, it looks like a mistake, and when you do, it becomes prophecy. I've received names before births, locations before deaths, and perpetrator patterns before headlines, and case energies embedded in other unrelated readings. That's not disorganized, that's soul prepared awareness. I don't read linearly. I read karmically. That's why a name might appear 3 cases early. That's why a place might feel real before the event exists. And because Spirit is always prepping the soul who's willing to carry the truth, I'm that soul. And now that I see the architecture, no one, not Reddit, not skeptics, not anyone, can take that knowing from me. Spirit was always right. I just needed time to see why. I'm astrologically wired for prophetic pattern decoding. It's literally built into my chart. As a double Aquarius, Aquarius Sun and Aquarius Rising, I'm naturally wired to see patterns others miss. Aquarius is a sign of future insight, archetypes, and soul level truth. My Libra moon adds a layer of emotional resonance, allowing me to reflect those patterns with clarity, compassion, and spiritual accuracy. What most people don't know is that my Uranus, the ruler of Aquarius, is in Sagittarius, and my Neptune is in Capricorn. Uranus in Sagittarius gives me prophetic, cross cultural, and karmic pattern recognition. It's why I don't just get information about one event. I receive threads that stretch across timelines, soul contracts, and even echo into the future cases. Neptune in Capricorn grounds my psychic downloads into structure. I don't just receive visions, I build meaning from them. This is why spirit often shows me information out of sequence. I'm not reading linearly, I'm reading karmically. I don't just read the scene, I decode the karmic template behind it and predict its reoccurrence. This is why I get information before the crime. It's why I receive multiple names in one reading. It's why spirit uses media, past cases, and fragments to build bridges for me. I'm a pattern psychic, a truth tracker, a timeline breaker. Chills. It's okay if it doesn't all belong to one case. Spirit is speaking in code. And if you know how to listen, you'll see what's coming before it arrives. This is also why I get what I call interconnects, pieces of future cases embedded in current ones, archetypes reoccurring through different souls, names before birth, locations before disappearance. These aren't accidents or filler. They're spirit's way of training me to recognize the karmic echo before it repeats, and my chart affirms that truth completely. So if you ever hear me mention another case during a reading or something that feels off topic, understand it might not be off topic at all. It might be a future case, a karmic twin, or a trauma echo showing up early, because spirit doesn't work on our timelines. They work on soul timelines, and I'm here to track those however they arrive. Sometimes spirit shows me what happened, but I receive it in a way my body or mind can understand. When Suzanne Morphu was trying to show me that she'd been hit with the dart gun, I heard a shot, and I assumed it was a real gun because I had no reference for what a dart gun sounds like, and also symbolism. But now we know it was a dart. I wasn't wrong. I just translated the truth through my own filter. That's part of how my psychic information works. It's not a guessing game. It's a language you learn over time, and every case sharpens the dictionary. Because I'm an open channel, I don't just receive messages. I absorb energetic imprints. These are soul-encoded impressions that come from trauma, memory, intention, or unresolved energy. When I connect to a case or spirit, I can feel not only what happened, but sometimes what almost happened, what was planned, and what was done before in the pattern. This is why I sometimes pick up on abuse that happened years earlier or emotions that seemed separate from the final moment. They're all part of the soul's field. Spirit doesn't always give me a clean, linear scenes. They give me emotional blueprint, and I translate it the best I can. Being an open channel means I don't just receive answers, I receive echoes. And sometimes those echoes belong to more than one life, more than one moment, and more than one victim. That's not confusion, that's resonance. As an open channel, I don't just connect to single case in isolation. Sometimes when I tune in to the person or event, I also receive imprints from other cases that are similar, what I call echo residue. These energetic fragments from other victims' timelines are unresolved patterns that share the same emotional, psychological, or karmic signature. For example, if I'm reading on a woman who was murdered by a controlling partner, I might also feel echoes from another woman whose case followed the same cycle. Even if they lived in a different place or years apart, spirit allows these imprints through because they're showing me the archetype, not just individual. It's how I track patterns across time and why I sometimes mention other cases during a reading. Not because I'm confused, but because I'm feeling the karmic thread running through them both. That this imprinting helps me recognize when a case is part of a larger soul pattern and why so many victims are spiritually connected, even if the world hasn't made those connections yet. Sometimes the spirit brings friends with them. Their stories overlap, their pain echoes, and my channel catches it because someone has to hold the whole thread. Getting chills again. Sometimes spirit shows me a case and says, it's like this one. Or they'll give me the energy of another killer, Bundy, Akala, Zodiac, not because they're the same person, but because the pattern is the same. In their way of saying, remember this energy, this method, the signature, it helps me translate the frequency faster. It helps me track the darkness when it tries to disguise itself. These aren't random comparisons, they're clues. Spirit speaks in energetic mirrors, and when I recognize the echo, I know what kind of shadow I'm walking into and what kind of truth I'm meant to pull out. I use cards sometimes, but not to tell me the future kind of way. They confirm the energy. They mirror what I already feel. And yes, I do use astrology, but only lightly. I'm not an astrologer. I don't claim to be. I use it as a way to validate what I'm getting intuitively, because when a vision lines up with the chart, that's when we know we're on the right track. Lately, I've been drawn to work more behind the house, meaning in solitude, quiet, away from the noise, because other people's thoughts, doubts, and projections can distort a reading. I found that when it's just spirit in me, the clarity deepens, the noise fades, and the truth rises. I don't want to chase attention, I want to protect the message. And yes, sometimes things get misperceived, not because the vision is wrong, but because we're human and we have to interpret what spirit gives us. This isn't about ego, it's not about being right, it's about doing our best to understand what's being shown. We don't control what spirit shows, we don't get to edit it. And anyone who says you're psychic, you should know everything, needs to understand we are not God. We are translators, vessels, and witnesses. We give what we are given, and that's the contract. Sometimes we read a different timeline. Sometimes a past shows up in a current one because they share a method, a location, or a soul thread. Sometimes spirit gives the ending before the middle even plays out. That's why it doesn't always follow the order people expect. But that doesn't mean it's wrong. It means spirit sees the whole story and we're getting it in pieces. One thing people often don't understand, especially in cases like Idaho 4, is that when I channel, I don't just receive a moment in time. I receive a soul story. That includes the event, the lead up, the emotional charge, and often things happening around it. Other people's thoughts, hidden details, or even unrelated moments that share energetic ties. Like, for instance, I got the name Brett, which turned out to be the name of the key investigator. I described the suspect's energy and appearance in ways that many said matched exactly long before the arrest. And yet, there are always people who focus on what didn't connect, forgetting that we don't know everything about a person's life, appearance, or history. They cherry pick what's wrong instead of acknowledging what's uncannily right. That's because I'm not reading a Wikipedia summary. I'm reading vibration, emotion, and psychic imprint. Being an open channel means I don't pick up what happened, I pick up what was felt, thought, said, remembered, witnessed by others, or even suppressed. Sometimes what I get is a side detail, a piece not public. Sometimes it's a conversation no one else heard, but it all belongs to the field. That's why readings aren't always neat. It's why dismissing what doesn't immediately fit can cause people to miss what's true. So when I give what I'm given, I ask for grace because it's never just a scene I'm seeing, it's a web. And my job is to name what spirit brings through, not just what people expect to hear. A lot of people ask why I don't do live readings anymore, and not for personal people, but for cases. And here's the truth. Because when I'm live, I end up reading the people in the chat, not the spirit that I come to connect with. It's because of a flood of energy, doubts, hopes, questions, projections, and instead of tuning in clearly, I start mind reading them. It creates noise. And for sacred work like this, clarity is everything. That happened in Ethan's readings in Idaho 4. It threw me way off. So that was a lesson to not do that anymore. I don't do this for spectacle. I do this to bring truth forward. And I've learned that honor the message. I need to step away from the crowd and come back to quiet where spirit speaks clearly. In the beginning of my work, especially during cases like Delphi, I channeled a lot through auto writing. That means I wasn't thinking, I was receiving words, phrases, locations, even feelings poured through without logic, just energy. What I didn't know at the time is that some of the things that I picked up weren't just about Delphi. They were about other cases tied to the same perpetrator archetype or similar patterns. I picked up overlapping energies, theories being shouted online, and sometimes even psychic noise from people projecting into the field. But I also picked up truths, early signs of the same perpetrator energy that would come up again in other readings. Once the energy settled, with fewer people were projecting and the story was quieted, I was able to get much clearer, more direct hits. That's how spirit works. And to this day, I'll say it. That reference to McDonald's wasn't because I was hungry, it was because the perpetrator was near the location. I could see it better than CVS next door. That's how vision works. I lock into what I can clearly identify, not what's convenient for someone else's theory. Part of my path is something many won't understand. I'm what spirit calls a shadow walker. That means I don't just walk in the light, I willingly step into the darkness, into grief, trauma, crime, and evil, not to glorify it, but to find what others are too afraid to face. And that's why this has become a big thing for me, because I am walking in the dark. I think I walk through the shadows so I can bring others out of it. I read the energy of killers, abusers, liars. I study the patterns. I feel the manipulations. Chills. I listen to the unspoken because someone has to. And that someone in this lifetime is me. It's not pretty. It's not light work all the time, but it's soul work. To be a shadow walker is to see things that others would turn away from and not look away. It means I can name the energy behind a crime, track the darkness behind a smile, or read the wound behind the violence. It's why I've been able to call out repeated predator archetypes, why I felt the souls of victims cry through me, and why I keep getting led to cases where darkness has silenced the truth. Because spirit knows I won't flinch. That's what it means to walk the shadows. Chills, dang it. You go there not to become them, but to pull truth from silence. And yes, I've even contracted with souls who once did harm, not to excuse them, not to glorify them, but to expose the pattern they once carried and help prevent them from repeating. One of those, again, souls is Ted Bundy. That contract wasn't something I chose lightly. It was spirit allowed, soul forged, because Ted, even in the afterlife, carries the imprint of a killer archetype that still echoes today. As a shadow walker, I was called to hold the mirror to it. I didn't ask to work with his energy, but when Spirit made it clear that the contract was part of my path to understand, expose, and decode that darkness, I honored it. That's why in cases like Idaho 4, Ted's signature showed up. Not because I was looking for him, but because the archetype reemerged and he helped me recognize it. If you want a deeper explanation, I've created a video called The Karmic Mirror where I go into all of this in full detail. But let me be clear here. This is not about fascination, it's about intervention. Because when Spirit chooses a guide, light or shadow, it's always for a reason. And my job is to walk beside whatever energy helps bring the truth forward, even if that means staring into the eyes of a monster to see the next one coming. And one more thing, when spirit gives me something specific, a name, a street, a landmark, or a clear phrase that ties directly to a case, that doesn't happen often. It's rare, it's sacred, and it's a gift. That kind of clarity isn't pulled out of thin air, it's given. It's spirit choosing to place something in my path that's meant to be seen. It might be a name like Brett from Idaho 4 as an investigator, or even a full name like Rick Allen or William Keith when that comes through. It's not random, it's intentional, it's encoded with meaning, and I don't take it lightly. It doesn't happen in every reading. It's not something I can demand or control, but when it comes, I listen, I protect, I speak it with reverence, because that's how spirit works. And this isn't for entertainment, it's for truth. Psychic location work is not like dropping a pin on a Google Maps. It's energetic. You're feeling into the field of resonance. Sometimes you get an exact pull to a specific spot. Other times you're drawn into zones, parameters, patterns of land, or environmental features that hold significance to the case or the person you're reading for. Often the initial impressions are broad because you're tuning into an energetic landscape before the conscious mind fully decodes the exact position. Over time, as you work deeper into the case, those zones may tighten, shift slightly, or clarify. That's called refining the channel, not being wrong. This is exactly why I will often state a general area to the public for awareness, but I only submit more defined, tighter coordinates to law enforcement after I've done that layered work. In addition to my psychic impressions, I also use forensic astrology to validate and cross-reference what I'm receiving. This allows me to take the raw energetic information and layer it against planetary influences, directional charts, and timing patterns, which helps me provide the most accurate information possible. It's a system of checks and balances. Another important thing people don't always understand is that sometimes I will pick up additional energetic imprints. These may be routes that were driven, places were involved, where individuals have been, areas that carry residual energy from different phases of the crime, or even cross imprints from other cases entirely. Not every energetic pull automatically means that remains are in that precise spot. Sometimes it's tied to movement, intention, or emotional residue along the path of events. That's why refinement and multiple layers of confirmation are also critical in my work. So when people say, oh, you gave 2 different locations, they're completely misunderstanding how this gift works. Energetic mapping grows in stages. The body might be 300 yards from one pool and 6 miles from another that picked up a key energetic marker. Both impressions can be correct within the field. That's how this gift operates, and why police do grid searches and expand radius searches even when trained cadaver dogs and professionals are on the ground. I share what I can when it's appropriate, and not everything I pick up goes public. If I haven't fully validated it yet, this is a layered discipline and it's not a guessing game. And I've tried to tighten that in more recently because location is important and being accurate is important, especially when you're trying to give out any type of location. I don't like to send a wild goose chases, period. But I cannot promise at the same time that somebody will be there. One of the most misunderstood aspects of psychic investigation work is the nature of how information actually comes through. Many people assume that psychic detectives simply receive exact addresses or GPS coordinates, but in reality, that's extremely rare. Even when you watch shows featuring psychic detectives, you'll notice that much of the information is symbolic, visual, or emotional in nature. It's often only after a person has found that the puzzle pieces click into place and authorities realize that's what the psychic meant. Law enforcement has long recognized that psychic information can serve as a valuable supplemental tool, offering clues, impressions, and directional markers that assist searches or point to areas that might have otherwise been overlooked. Sometimes a psychic is instrumental in leading directly to a location, and other times, the symbols they receive act like breadcrumbs, guiding the investigation in ways that only become fully clear with hindsight. Each case unfolds the way it's meant to, and the way Spirit allows, often revealing just enough to keep the momentum of justice moving forward. And it's important to understand that psychic work isn't always linear again. Spirit often reveals what is allowed to be seen at any given moment, balancing the free will of those involved, karmic timing, and the readiness of investigators to receive certain piece of information. There's also the sacred truth of divine timing. Not every body is meant to be found yet. Not every case is ready to be solved. Some spirits are still working through karmic layers, or their loved ones aren't ready to receive. And no, not finding a body doesn't make you less psychic. Anyone who says that doesn't understand how rare and sacred it is to be led to an exact coordinates. When that happens, it's a miracle. But more often, we're given direction, terrain, vibe, emotion, and that's still deeply valid. Another thing people don't see is the cost of this work. Energetically, spiritually, emotionally, it takes a toll. When I connect to cases, I don't just read it, I carry it. Sometimes I'm up all night, drained after a session, or physically aching after channeling or passing out on the couch. Because this isn't casual, this is deep soul contract. And I do it anyways because these souls matter. It's also important to say that I don't share everything I see. Some things are too sacred. Some things could hurt the case if shared too soon. So, yes, I withhold until the timing feels right. That's not hiding, that's respecting the process. There is sacred responsibility that comes with being given information that others can't see, and I don't take that lightly. A lot of what I share gets validated later. I've had people question me, only to have my readings line up with new discoveries, confessions, or arrests weeks or even months after the fact. Just because something hasn't happened yet doesn't mean it's wrong. Spirit often shows things before the world is ready to catch up. That's why I say I don't chase validation, I let it arrive when it's time. One more thing, there's a big difference between real intuition and the noise people put out online. Not every vision is truth, not every psychic is grounded, and not every opinion is a download. I say stay in alignment by asking Spirit to filter everything through truth, protection, and purpose. That's the difference between guessing and listening. This work isn't about being loud, it's about being in tune. At the end of the day, I just ask for one thing: trust. Not because I think I know everything, but because I'm the one doing the work. I'm the one sitting with Spirit, staying up at night, checking, double checking, and carrying the weight of these visions. It's not that other people's impressions don't matter, it's that I've been entrusted with this piece of the work. And when I'm shown something, I don't just run with it, I validate it, I test it, I hold it to the light. That's why I share it. So when you follow my work, you're not just following a hunch, you're following a process, one grounded in integrity, discernment, and sacred responsibility. There's one more thing I want people to understand. This work isn't just about solving crimes or describing killers, it's about witnessing souls. When I connect to a case, I'm not just picking up clues, I'm listening to the parts of them that never got to speak. I'm hearing what's buried, what's silent, and what was taken. I don't just read energy, I carry it. And sometimes I say the last words they couldn't. Because I'm a soul witness. That's why Spirit chose me, not to be right, but to be present for truth, for the healing, and for the record. And I will never stop speaking for the ones who never got to. So let's be honest, people project. They take what I say and they twist it, weaponize it, or accuse me of claiming things I never did. I don't do this to be right. I do this to serve. And I don't control how others choose to receive, misinterpret, or react. But let me be clear. I don't chase clout. I don't force conclusions. I follow what Spirit gives. I filter it through care, and I realize or release it with reverence. What others do with it, that's on them. This work isn't democratic. I'm not asking for a group vote on whether a vision is real. This is between me, Spirit, and the soul or souls that I'm being called to speak for. You may not always understand the timing or why something is shared the way that it is, but that doesn't make it wrong. Sacred messages aren't always popular, but they're always purposeful. I didn't just stumble into this work, I was built for it. My astrology confirms it. I have an Aquarius sun and rising, which means I'm here to be a truth bringer, a system breaker, a voice for what's been silenced. Aquarius connects me to the collective and the unseen. I'm wired to receive messages from beyond the veil and challenge what others are afraid to touch. My Libra moons gives me the emotional compass to seek justice, harmony, and truth. I don't just chills, observe and balance. I feel it. I carry it. That's why I can sit with the pain of others and still hold space for a resolution. My Venus in Capricorn grounds me. It gives me the strength to take this seriously, to build something lasting, and to commit to this path with sacred responsibility. This isn't a phase, this is life's work. Chills again. And maybe most importantly, my midheaven is in Scorpio. That's the crown of my chart, my destiny. I'm here to live it out publicly. Scorpio midheaven means that I'm meant to go deep, to walk into the dark, to uncover what's been buried, expose hidden truths, and transform traumas into power. It's not an easy path, but it's the path I was born for, to work with death, mystery, crime, and soul contracts on a public stage with sacred accountability. So when people ask me why I get these messages, why I care so deeply, why I keep showing up even when it's hard, this is why. Because I was astrologically aligned, spiritually prepared, and soul contracted to do this work. What most people don't see is the weight behind the work, the hours spent tuning in, the dozens of tips sent, the pressure to make sure I don't lead anyone astray. I double check everything, not just for accuracy, but because I care. I can't get out of my head most of the time, and I never want to give wrong information. So every case, every name, every location is not just content to me, it's sacred responsibility. And with that comes fear sometimes, the fear of misinterpreting something, the fear of being picked apart or taken out of context, the fear that someone will twist what I say to fit their own agenda, because that's happened. Trolls, haters, people who don't do this work but feel entitled to tear it down. What they don't understand is this isn't a trend, this is a burden, a calling, and I carry with love, but it's heavy. But I still show up because the souls deserve to be seen, and because even if it's hard, I know this is the work I was meant to do. So when I ask for support, whether it be emotional, spiritual, or financial, it's not because I can't handle this on my own. It's because lifting some of the weight means I can help more people. It means I have the space to breathe, to rest, to stay in alignment with spirit. Support isn't about capability, it's about sustainability. The path is long, and if I'm going to keep showing up for the souls who need me, I have to be able to stand strong. You might wonder why I still do this even with the attacks, doubt, and exhaustion. It's because I have to, not because I want attention, but because I'm called. The soul is still waiting to be found, the truth still buried, and the echoes that I feel in the silence. They're why I keep going. And even if one person understands, if one family gets peace, then it's all worth it. I don't choose the cases, I'm called to them. There's a reason I'm pulled in when I am. It doesn't matter if it's a political reading, a world event, a murder, or a missing child. If spirit brings it to me, I answer. I don't need permission, I don't need approval, because when I feel that pull, there's a karmic alignment. There's something I'm meant to witness, reveal, or release. Sometimes it's about helping a spirit be heard, other times it's about revealing a truth buried in silence. But either way, it's mine to carry in that moment. And just as importantly, I'm not meant to work every case. Not every story is mine to hold. Spirit chooses what's aligned, and I follow that, not pressure or popularity. So if you see me speak on one case and not another, it's not indifference, it's discernment. This path isn't about chasing trauma, it's about following spirit where I'm needed the most, and that call, it's mine alone. No one gets to decide whether I'm qualified to speak because spirit already decided. I just ask one thing: respect spirit and respect me as a messenger. If you can't do that, well, this isn't the space for you. Because I don't do this for likes, I do this for truth and souls I serve deserve nothing less. I don't need to prove myself, because if you really listen, if you really watch, if you really take the time to observe with open eyes and an honest heart, my work speaks for itself. This work is not entertainment, although we have to say that. It's sacred, it's exhausting, and it's real. And for those of us doing it, we know how heavy the responsibility is. That's why I double check. That's why I hesitate. That's why I care so much, because this has to be right. Not popular, not dramatic, but right. So if you're watching, this is to understand how it works. Thank you. If you're watching to criticize, ask yourself what you do with what we carry. I will always give what I'm given, and I'll keep standing with spirit, because the truth always finds a way. One thing I need to say, because it's part of my truth, is that I don't grift, I give. Every day I show up for spirit, for the missing, and for those who have no voice. That includes my animals in my care, many of whom are soul contracts with me. Some have been with me for nearly 2 decades. They're not props, they're a part of my spiritual ecosystem. They protect, ground, and walk beside me in this work. And when you walk this kind of path, spiritual, intuitive, service-led, people will twist what you do. They'll reduce your mission to a headline, a hashtag, a lie to fit their narrative, and still you rise. I've seen comments implying I grift for my animals. That's not only absurd, it's disrespectful to the soul contracts I honor, the medicine I carry, and the real work I show up for every single day. My animals are part of my path. They are protectors, teachers, sentinels of energy. Some have been with me again for nearly 2 decades. And I've often carried entirely the care on my own shoulders. No one sees the vet visits, the medications, the midnight emergencies I manage, and that's okay. I don't do it for applause. I've seen people say I should get a real job, and let me be clear, this is my real job. I've worked privately with hundreds of clients, often behind the scenes, and I pour hours into investigations I don't charge a cent for. I channel, I research, I cross-validate, and publicly share insights that could help bring the lost home. And when I say research, it's after the readings. We have to find locations and connect the dots. That's how this works. That's why you're called a sleuth, a psychic sleuth, or a psychic detective. So don't get it twisted. I channel, I research, I cross-validate, and I publicly share insights that could help bring the lost home. That's not something you clock in and out for. People have different callings, and not everyone is meant for a legitimate job, as people call it. This is my calling. My midheaven again is in Scorpio. This is the work of transformation, revelation, and truth. And yes, I offer ways for people to support, just like every other content creator, spiritual worker, or intuitive who provides hours of labor freely. Energy exchange matters. Donations help offset the burden, not line my pockets. And when someone contributes, it's not out of guilt. It's because they feel called. And I always give back through readings, rituals, or just clarity that they came seeking. Grifters take like workers give, and we don't chase validation. We walk with spirit, and we give because we're called. And there is also boundaries in this work. Spiritual etiquette is real. When I post a reading, I'm sharing what Spirit gave me. I'm not here to debate your opinion or argue over what someone else said. I'm not in competition. I'm in connection. I don't go to other people's channels and try to overwrite their work, and I expect the same respect. If you feel pulled to someone else's insight, that's fine. Follow it. But don't come into my space trying to shift the narrative or correct me. That's not how this works. And no, I don't care what another psychic said. That's not ego, that's discipline. I honor the channel I was given, I protect it, and that's how my gifts work. And yes, I'm direct. I say what I mean. That's not rude. That's called having a boundary. I don't sugarcoat or perform. I speak truth as spirit gives it to me. I'm an Aquarius. Authenticity is the default setting. And while we're at it, sometimes I stumble over my words, just like I just did. Sometimes I mispronounce things. That doesn't mean I didn't write it. That doesn't mean I'm not tuned in. I'm not here to speak perfectly. I'm here to channel truth. If my delivery offends you, then maybe the message wasn't meant for you in the first place. And yes, sometimes I do defend myself, not out of guilt, but out of healing, because it's something healed people do. They name their worth, they clarify their boundaries, and they honor the integrity of what they've built. So if you're watching this wondering if I'm real, let this be the answer. My path is spirit-led, not spotlight-driven. I didn't choose this work because it's easy. I chose it because it's sacred. Thank you guys for the love and support. I hope that explained everything. And if you have questions, feel free to ask. I can always make videos on questions that you may have.